Hello and welcome again to Parent Solution. And today we have here again with us Austeja. Austeja today is a doctor of education and writer of many books. She has written the book The Art and Science of Elementary Education. And this topic, reading, she is going to talk about reading with us today. And this is my favorite topic because I find it really difficult to bring my children, like two of them are reading and one is not reading. I have three children. So how can I bring my child into this habit of reading in this era of technology, era of screens? Like, it's very boring. The moment I ask him to read, they say it's boring, I don't want to do it. Please give me some tips, and to my viewers also.
Well, thank you for having me here. Reading is one of my favorite topics as well. I've been well, not really researching it because it's not my research topic, but I've been researching it as an amateur, as a person who really loves to find out more about reading, because I love reading myself. And I really wanted my children to love reading, because we know how many benefits there are to those who read, because to begin with, broader vocabulary, broader understanding of world, of cultures. It's like you can have a book when you want to travel. You can have a book when you want to have a relationship. You can have a book when you want to find out things, and you can, pick up a poem when you feel a heartache. So books can be best friends, really. I know it's a cliche, but in very many ways, it is an absolute truth to actually have a book that accompanies you through your life. And of course, today books have a lot of competition, and some of them you have mentioned. There are video games, there are social media, there is Netflix, and
so many distractions.
So yes, and of course, to read, it's work. It's much easier to sit in front of TV and watch some series, or it's much easier to scroll on your phone, than to actually pick up a book and to try to understand what the author was saying, why he or she was saying that, and so on and so forth. So actually what the science tells us is that, a lot of times we think that you either have love of reading or you don't. Well, it's a myth. And I think it's very important to burst that myth, because if we believe it, then we will lose our children to things that are easily accessible and are more fun, so to say. Love of reading is an acquired thing. It's like with some peculiar things in life, with some food, with some views, you don't like it at first because it's an acquired taste. I think reading is very similar, because it requires us to put in effort of the mind, effort of the heart, and everything where you have to put effort is hard. It's not as fun, especially in the beginning. We all like to, eat tomatoes, but we don't all like to plant them. Or, imagine something that you really like, because you need to take care of it. You need to water, you need to fertilize, you need to, to show love and care.
I love the example you used. I love that. Thank you for using that for us.
It's not like I came and tomato was there. There's a lot of work put into it. Or, if you don't like tomatoes, it can be anything that you like. It could be, cucumber or figs, but it is a lot of effort. So the love of reading and love for books requires us to understand, and us as parents, that it will be a journey. That it's not, I have it or I don't. It's a journey. And it may be, as some journeys, longer, and it may be very fast. And sometimes when we compare us as parents with the other parents and with the other children, we say, yeah, but her daughter likes to read. Mine doesn't. Well, you just have a longer journey, and it's up to us if we want to take that journey as parents. Because just like we teach our children to brush their teeth, we don't say, oh, they don't like brushing their teeth, then I quit, because they resist it, they fight, they don't want it. All 2-year-olds hate brushing teeth. Very few love it, but we don't allow them to not do it because it's about their health. Well, I think reading is about the health of the brain. And if we don't let them to not brush their teeth or not wash their hands because we care about their health, their physical health, well, we should care just as much about the health of their brain.
Absolutely.
So I think we should make it our priority that our children read. I always tell the parents, if there's one thing that that you have to kind of pass on to your children, be it reading. Let it be reading. And invest as much time, because it's mainly about time. you know, because we can borrow books from friends, we can borrow books from the libraries, because when people say I don't have money for the books, you know, there are people on this planet who have no money for the books, but majority of us have friends who have books, you know, and if you have 5 friends who at least have 1 book, you have 5 books.
Yeah.
You know, so and very few people don't have friends, don't have access to the library, you know, and so on and so forth. So if there is a will, for most of us on this planet, there is a way to get access to the books, right? So so then it comes down to the effort. How much effort we will invest, we will put into our children reading. Well, another myth that a lot of parents have is, you know, they want their children to read quality books, you know, and then there are these young children who are given Shakespeare, for example. You know? And I think that all reading is good reading. Mm-hmm. And if we want to get the children interested in reading, especially in the beginning, we need to find not what we want them to read, but what interests them. We shouldn't start with us. We should start with them. So if they like fairy tales, find them fairy tales to read and read yourself fairy tales to them. If they like comic books, give them. A lot of parents say, but it's not quality. Don't worry about it. Reading is quality. All reading is good reading. Let them read. I have 4 children myself, and one of them had difficult time to transition from, you know, the phase when the children can read, but they read technically, they don't really understand what they're reading. They can just kind of like telegraph, you know, they just read, but they don't really understand. Transition to that, you know, pleasure reading. And she loved animals. She loved animals. She would stop by the dogs on the street. She would look at the cats. She would go to the chicken pens whenever we would go to the village and everything. So we found her series that were about cats and dogs. And it was not good quality literature. You know, a lot of kids later, I found out, love those books, but it's mediocre quality. But our daughter was hooked. She read all summer, all those books, and she transitioned. You know, so it's, again, it's not about us, it's about them. Mm-hmm. And for example, now our daughter is 14, and we have agreed with her that she reads 1 my recommendation, and then she can read 1 her, whatever she wants. Then 1 my recommendation, then 1 what she wants, because she's already big enough to understand and to reach a consensus, you know, to actually reach an understanding. But when she was younger, we were looking for what interests her, what makes her heart sing, and what makes her want to read. Because reading cannot be forced upon people, but it needs to be nurtured. If we just give up and wait, we will lose. Social media, games, series are much stronger. So if we leave it to them, we will lose. So we have to fight that fight. But at the center, not us, the child. So again, you know, we besides finding what they want to read, I think it's very important, especially for young children, and I cannot stress that enough, to read to them. A lot of times parents, when children learn how to read, stop reading to them. But as I said, at first, reading is a struggle. It's hard work. They read much slower. They understand much less, and it leads to frustration. Nobody likes frustration. Nobody likes frustration. So we have to counter that frustration by nurturing love for reading, by reading to our children. Yeah. Because children until 6th grade, again, that's what research shows, until 6th grade, they understand more than they are able to read. Okay. Because you know, they've been talking for all their life. So their vocabulary is much richer. They understand much more than they can read, because they're very advanced talkers and only beginner readers. So there is a gap. And by reading to them, we can close that gap psychologically, so they don't feel frustration about reading as an act. So for example, when our daughter was reading those books that were very simple about animals, together we were reading Astrid Lindgren, Pippi Longstocking, and all the other great adventure books that she loved. So I was very consciously closing that gap so she wouldn't start hating to read. So that's another thing, that we should never forget to read, because again, I repeat myself, but I think this is very important. Only around 6th grade, there is no more gap. So that means that all the way through elementary school, we should read to our children, because that way we're closing the gap and we are strengthening the relationship. And another thing, I think another of mistakes that a lot of parents do is that they want to read, 10 pages, 15 pages, 20 pages, like, let's read. And, and if they haven't read enough pages, then they feel like failure. But it's not about the quantity. It's about the quality. If, for example, we read one paragraph and then we see that the child has a lot of questions and wants a discussion, do it. Explore the things together. These moments are amazing opportunities to discuss what is happening in connection to the world around us and capitalize on curiosity. Like oftentimes we would stop with my children and then we would watch a YouTube video on something, on the topic that, for example, they would say, I remember once we were reading about adventures, and they were like, well, how does the submarine function? I think it was 80 Miles Under the Sea by Jules Verne. And I was like, oh, I actually have no idea how a submarine functions. Let's find that out. So we watched one YouTube video on how they assemble a submarine, and then we watched some and how they talk about the submarine. And we were like, oh my goodness, there is a different world out there. So we built on that curiosity and we dug deeper. We explored it together, which also strengthens your relationship with your child because you are discovering things together. Yes, you are. And the other very important thing that a child learns is that, it's okay to not know things. Because my mom, who's very wise and very old and, and all this, she does not know everything. So it's okay when I don't know things. It's okay to not know because we can find out. We can ask those questions and we can discover. And no matter how old I am, it's okay to not know. And it's okay to keep looking and keep building on that curiosity. So I think it's a very important lesson we teach our children because sometimes they think that if they finish university, they should know everything there is in this world. It's not possible. There's nobody in this world who knows everything. But it's very silly if we stop learning when we're young because we are embarrassed to admit that we don't know something. So books and that building on curiosity helps us to teach our children this invaluable lesson of lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning.
Yeah. So, yes. And the other thing, what it teaches also that, we don't need to be an entertainer. Because again, some parents say, I can't read to my child because I'm not I'm not a poet or I'm not a writer or I'm not an actor. Children do not need an actor to read a book to them. They need their mom or their dad or their bigger sister or their bigger brother. They need a relationship. They don't need a theater. If they need a theater, they'll go to theater.
Yes, definitely.
So it's about bonding. It's about relationship. It's actually about your voice and not a professional voice. So we should embrace that, and we should talk about what is happening. We should play with the books by predicting what will happen next, and so on and so forth. I think that reading should be part of the routine. Like, for example, when our children when we stopped reading to them, we wanted to continue that love of reading in their teenage years. So every day after the dinner, we would have a dear time, which was drop everything and read. Dear time. So we would drop everything that we're doing. We would put away our phones. We would turn off the music, and everybody would bring a book they're reading to the living room, and we would read together for half an hour. And it's just half an hour. Everybody has half an hour. Even people who say they don't have half an hour, they do have half an hour. We waste much more time. We waste much more time scrolling, watching series, and doing useless things. So minimize that. And find that half an hour to spend reading as a family, because that way we will show that we value it as a family. It's important for us as a family. And of course, we will be modeling a great reading behavior that will set the foundation for future readership when we will not be around anymore. When they will have their own families, they will take those traditions and those habits to their own families, so that reading and the love of reading will not just last a lifetime, but will last forever.
Yeah, thank you, Austeja, for sharing all the tips. They are really, really useful. And I got so much idea for my family and my children. And I want to say to all the viewers, don't give up on the social media and games and anything which is more interesting than reading. Make it interesting for your children. And I know you all can. And I'm in the journey of shifting my family, even my readers. Sometimes they feel reading is not as interesting as social media, but still I am struggling and I'm working and I'm bringing them into this habit reading, because this is how we are going to hold this beautiful habit and pass it on to the next generation, as Austeja said. And I want you all to reach out to Austeja's book through her website, which I'll be putting the link in the description box for you all to go and read more about her and read her book, which is the Art and Science of Elementary Education.
Thank you.
Thank you, Austeja, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. Take care.